This could cost me followers, and if it does, I'm okay because I know I've lost the right ones. In 2024, if you don't understand that white privilege doesn't equal financial privilege, there's a good chance it's because you choose to be willfully ignorant. White privilege doesn't mean that you grew up rich or that you didn't have a hard life. It's the concept that by the mere coincidence of you being born white or white presenting, that you have an inherent privilege. You're afforded certain benefits of the doubt that not everyone gets. It's the difference from a white person walking into a store and a customer salesperson walking up and saying, "Hi, can we help you find something today?" To a black person walking in that same store with that same customer service person following them around because they looked kind of suspicious. It's the black family that can't leave their family photos hanging on the wall when they're selling their house because the home appraiser might undervalue their house by as much as $500,000. And for fuck's sakes, you've never had to apologize for being white. Had your parents fucked on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday, you wouldn't even be you. Rather, just acknowledge that the system that was designed by and for people that look like you has never been a level playing field. I hope this made it clear. Have a great fucking week.
I just give it to her. She got it. Hello, guys, and welcome back. How are you guys doing? I bet you're doing good. Let's jump right into this one. Thank you for tuning in. This is another one buzzing the internet because a lot of people say this woman right here, for her to come out, not even holding back, but saying what the African Americans has been saying for a very long time to some people. It is like this woman right here, she just betrayed our race and she's supporting another race. Boy, just like I said, let's give it to this woman right here. Credit to the creators for giving us this opportunity to how to overcome it, because we have talked about this same topic before, that some people, they are going to take their time before they understand the meaning of white privilege. And when we see one person or a group of people finally got it and they took it upon themselves to want to enlighten others, I would say give it to them. I'm gonna be running y'all the rest of the clips. How do y'all feel? I am so happy. I don't know about y'all, but this is what's celebrating. Yes, some people might say it is too late, but just like I've told y'all, we gotta be patient. Sometimes we just gotta give some people time for them to understand some topic. You know what I mean? Yeah, sometimes some people they understood it, but they just wanna be like, but when we now see one person that got it, I would say we gotta say kudos to her. How do you feel? Go down there in the comment section, had your comment. Let me roll your more clips, then we had more commentary.
A story of white privilege from a white Republican woman. Oh, this is about to piss a lot of you off. I see a lot of my friends in the comments talking about how white privilege doesn't exist. But it does. And I can speak on it firsthand. And the reason is I had a black child in my home. Quick story time. My son's best friend, both of his parents were incarcerated. He was a mixed child, white mother, black dad. The parents of the mother, one was a cop, one was a physician, did not want to take him. He was at risk for going into the system, into foster care. And so my, at the time, husband, not my current husband, we filed for a temporary, not custody, but it was like a temporary guardianship. So he could ride the bus from our house, we could call the school, make changes to his schedule, and so on. This child was, at glance, black. He did not look Caucasian at all, even though he was half Caucasian. He attended school with my son, and once he was in my home, I noticed very, very quickly how differently he was treated. Not just by the teachers and the administrators at the school, but also by the police in our town. Yes, I live in a town that is primarily white. A lot of things that I never would have believed occurred and happened to people happened to this young man. And it was a stark contrast. Now, I know from firsthand experience, I've had a lot of different kinds of experiences being in the Marines and a very diverse culture in the Marines, all walks of life, all skin colors. I've been a lot of places, in a lot of spaces, seen a lot of people, been around a lot of races. And I never believed in white privilege. I thought your experience in the world is what you make of it. And for the most part, I do believe that is true. However, two things can be true at once. I do believe that we create our world and our experiences, but I do believe that there's merit to white privilege. And I think that the experience that I have is not always the same as a person that is melanated has, especially young people, because they're not as in control of their environment and the conversations and the way that those conversations go and so on. They're vulnerable. And adults, I believe, took advantage of situations, in the case with this young man that I was caring for, because he was brown. Things that were said to him that happened, that I know for a fact happened to him, that would have never happened to my son, that never happened to my son. So I want you to remember something. When you say boldly on the internet that white privilege doesn't exist, I want you to remember the middle-aged Republican white lady telling you it does. It does. It does exist. It is very much a thing.
So yesterday I posted a video giving a very basic definition in my own words of what white privilege is. And I kept it very brief and vague on purpose because I had a feeling people would start arguing in the comments, which they did. But I also thought it was super interesting how many people were commenting that I have white guilt, that I want to be black, and that I'm dying for the attention of the black community. First of all, yes, I have white guilt. You should too. Anyone who grows up with the knowledge that they have systematic advantages over other people just because of historical events and historical discrimination should feel a little guilty about that. Whether or not they contributed to that is a whole other thing, but you're reaping the benefits of it. People act like white guilt is something to be ashamed of, but if you use it in the right way and you use it to further reduce injustice, it's a good thing. And when people talk about systematic injustice and things like that, and they say, oh, everyone's equal, and this is happening in the comments, there's no racism anymore, everyone's equal, obviously don't understand what systematic means. And I'm going to give an anecdotal story just to really hit this on the head. I am white, and on both sides of my family, we do not have any massive generational wealth. My mom's father is the only one of my 4 grandparents who we got any sort of generational wealth inherited from. And 99% of the wealth that we inherited from my grandfather was from selling his house. My grandfather was born in 1926 in rural North Carolina, and he was a 6'3" white man with blue eyes. And other than being white, my grandfather didn't have that many privileges. He was one of like 7 children. His mom didn't even get to high school level education, and his dad never went to college. They were not privileged in most other ways that we define privilege, but he was a white male in a very, very racist country. What his whiteness allowed him to do was work his way through college. At the time, there were colleges that weren't accepting black people, and he was accepted to college as long as he could pay for it. And he ended up getting a law degree and becoming very successful. And again, never hoarded any significant wealth, but bought a house outside of Washington, D.C. in the 50s. In a neighborhood that was redlined. And actually, my mom, who was born in the 60s, remembers in the 70s when the first black family moved into their neighborhood, because it had literally been sectioned off and realtors would not sell to black families. And my mom, who is 58 years old, went to a year of segregated school. So for all of you saying, it was so long ago, everyone has equal rights now, get over it. My mom remembers when the first black student joined her class in the 70s in Alexandria, Virginia. In 2015, my grandfather died, and we sold his house that he bought for around $100,000 in the 50s, and we sold it for $1 million. That money was divided among his children, and my family was able to get out of a lot of debt, and it completely reset my ability to go to private versus public school, my ability to afford tutors, my ability to become the educated person that I am. And it was all really because I have a white grandfather. Let me finish. Had my grandfather been black and had all of the other skills and background that he had, he couldn't have gone to the schools that he went to. He wouldn't have been hired in the jobs that he was. And he couldn't have bought the house that he did, that, 65 years later, put his family out of debt. So if anyone tries to tell you it's not that deep, it really is that deep. It goes so far back. Any small privilege that a white person has is probably, to some degree, due to their whiteness. And if you are a white person who has roots in the South, you definitely should have white guilt, and you definitely should be doing the work to understand how your privilege affects the people around you and how you can help level the playing field. Because you, almost 100%, have an ancestor who owned Black people. So yes, I have white guilt. Yes, I'm aware of my status as a white woman, and I'm aware of the parts of my identity that are privileged and the parts that aren't. But saying that you have a certain type of privilege doesn't mean that you have every privilege. It just means that that aspect of your identity is favored by society. So I can talk about being a white woman and that makes me privileged. But if I talk about being a woman, that is actually a disadvantage in a lot of ways. And everyone tried to get all particular about these specific situations where a Black person might have a privilege or a woman might have a privilege over a man. Those are isolated situations you're bringing up. We're talking about large scale, mass, systematic issues. And it's a lot deeper than just, oh, I felt racism as a white person at one point. Fine, yeah, all of us can experience what feels like discrimination based on race. But that doesn't mean that it's systematically affecting you and stopping you and your families from catching up. That's really what it is. Now, yeah, legally, Black people and white people should have the same exact rights and privileges. But they're playing catch up. Because if my family, like I said, had been Black, we would never have gotten out of debt in 2015. I would never have been able to afford the school that I went to and live the lifestyle that I'm living right now. And that's because of effects from over 70 years ago. So thanks for listening. And yeah, white guilt's okay.
Okay, white people, let's talk about it again. Let's keep talking about white supremacy and accountability. The reason why I want to have conversations with white people about white supremacy is not because I want people to carry this massive load of white guilt or because I think every single white person alive is racist. I don't think that. I want to have these conversations because if nothing changes, nothing changes. And I truly believe that it's our responsibility as white people who hold the privilege to dismantle the systems that we benefit from that harm others. So I made a video the other day talking about taking accountability as white people for our own history of violence and confronting ourselves and confronting the systems that we built that exist in this country today that have vastly different health outcomes and behavioral outcomes for different people. And pretty predictably, a lot of the responses that I got from white people were avoidant, dismissive, in denial, and pretty much unwilling to confront the reality of how our country operates and how that impacts people who are not white, straight people. I had a lot of people saying, well, I didn't build it and I treat everybody the way that I would want to be treated, so it's not on me. And why do all of us white people have to be ashamed of being white? And color doesn't matter. And you are furthering a divide between races or just between different demographics of people that shouldn't exist by talking about this. And something that I learned actually from volunteering in prisons with incarcerated men and women is the concept of radical accountability. So accountability, I think is pretty obvious. Most people think accountability is taking responsibility for your own actions and how they impact other people and acknowledging any wrongdoing that you've done and committing not to repeat those actions. But what I have observed and learned from the incarcerated men that I've volunteered with that are very, very committed to their paths of bettering themselves and contributing positively to the world is that radical accountability goes beyond just the individual and their own actions. It extends out to how they interact with their communities, what they want to offer their communities, and what they really want to contribute to the world that they want to help build. So the response that I heard about, well, it isn't me, when you shift your perspective, radical accountability is about looking at your surroundings, looking at your environment, looking at the community around you, and considering it partially your responsibility to uplift that community. Do I think one person can change the entire world completely on their own? No, but I think if a lot of us embraced the idea of radical accountability and looked out into our communities and decided to take on the perspective that our communities are our responsibility and the health and happiness and stability of our communities is our responsibility, then I think our world would look a lot different than it does. So in speaking with white people, that is the point of confronting each other and ourselves about whiteness, about white supremacy, about white violence, because you just there's no way to deny it. It's undeniable that white supremacy exists and is alive and thriving in this country. Trey Reed was found hanging from a tree, and his case was immediately dismissed as suicide. Second autopsy, and we're hearing a very different story, which is completely unsurprising. ICE agents walking around, shoving people to the floor, separating families, brutalizing people, brown people, vast majority of the time, without repercussions, without consequences, without even having to show their faces or their names. So, white people, when we think about the culture of white supremacy, white violence, and the history of that and how it persists today, culturally, the fact that you just exist as a white person means that you are contributing to the culture of whiteness somehow. Just like every single person on planet Earth contributes to the culture that exists in their communities. Your existence contributes to some sort of dynamics that exist in this world. You could be contributing aggressive, intense racism, using slurs, degrading people, making people's lives hard, demonizing people. You could be contributing to that culture by engaging in it. You could be fighting hard with your activism against that culture and trying to use your voice for good, trying to donate your money, your time, your energy, picking up books and reading, listening to conversations with people that don't look like you, did not grow up like you, and have insight that is really important for you to learn. Or you could be in denial and just ignoring everything. You could be afraid and avoidant. You could live your life without going anywhere near this subject matter because that's more comfortable and that's easier. But that also is contributing to a culture and a dynamic. So no matter what you're choosing to do, no matter how you exist, you are contributing to the dynamics that exist in the world in one way or the other. And the question is, how do you want to contribute? Who do you want to be? Racism and bigotry isn't just about using slurs or dehumanizing people to their face. It's about the systems that exist in this country that make some people's lives better and that benefit some people, but harm others. So white people, it's important for us to talk about white supremacy and to educate ourselves about how the systems in our country operate and the outcomes that people face as a direct result of how these systems operate. Nothing changes if nothing changes, and I hope lots of people are having these conversations. I hear it sometimes, but I don't hear it enough, and I want to be somebody that engages in these conversations. I think it's so important now more than ever for us to be using our voices and to be finding ways to connect and communicate about how our country actually runs, the reality of life for people in this country, and how do we contribute to that, and what is our responsibility. And I think we all have a responsibility to each other to make this place safer, because if what everybody says that they want is safety, but your neighbor is constantly unsafe, you are not safe. Safety is about the stability of a community. It's about how we treat each other. It's about what we offer each other. It's about generosity. It's about humanizing each other. It's about seeing the needs that people have, the very real, intense needs that people have, and deciding that it is our responsibility to meet those needs, to get people on stable ground so that all of us can experience safety and stability. Nobody will ever be able to convince me that we are going to reach a state of harmony and safety and kindness and generosity and equality in this country if we don't take accountability, address each other, confront ourselves, and decide that all of us have a responsibility to create the world that we want to live in. It isn't productive to just continue blaming generations past for all of our issues and remaining in denial about what still exists today. So white people, let's keep talking about it. Love you.
I would say she nailed it. Let's keep talking about it. And I am going to say all of the creators actually did nail that. Credit to the creators for giving us this opportunity to add our comment. How do y'all feel about this? Go down there in the comment section if you can and add your comment. You know what I mean? She said, let's keep talking about it. You know, and just like one of the creators said, because some people did not get this white privilege yet, doesn't mean that they are racist. They just didn't get it yet. Some got it, yes, and they are using it to their advantage, and they are not ready to, to accept it. Let's put it that way. But I love the fact she said, let's keep talking about it. I know the more we talk about it and the more like the white people come on board to talk about it, I think it's going to help a lot of people. This is what we are just saying. For a start, just accept that there is a white privilege. Does not mean you racist, but just accept it. You had a story of that creator that she had a black boy in the house. You know what I mean? She came out to tell a story. I think when a lot of people come out to talk about it, especially the white, because the blacks have talked, and I believe the blacks are just like, sometimes they're just like, they're tired. But I said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. We gotta be patient. Some gonna get there right on the spot. Some might get there. By the time we talk, a lot of people still gonna get that. And why some people, even though they got it, they're still not gonna get that. But we cannot stop talking about this white privilege. What do you guys think? Let's go down there in the comment section. Add your comment. And if you haven't joined this growing community, what are you waiting for? Right here is the best place to get your diligence. Thank you to everybody. See you later.